good morning, good midday, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for a scene for the Gaslight family. Um, our scene will start with um, Jack Randall sitting in his own mansion waiting for his guests to arrive. Um, he had a discussion with Count Torsten about getting more information about the Toreador Primogen, and um, now he's waiting for his new guest to arrive so that they can discuss the matter that was, or the task that was given to them by their Primogen.
And it won't be long before Archibald Parsons arrives a couple of minutes before the agreed time. And he when he gets to the mansion, he nods to his coach driver and heads for the door, where I assume there's a servant or something to greet him.
Yes. As soon as Archibald comes close to the door of the mansion, surfing girl will open the door for him from the inside, and she will stand by the door, bowing her head, politely waiting for Archibald to enter.
He will enter the house and he will smile at her. "Thank you, my dear," he says, and he hands her his top hat and his coat for her to keep safe while he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And he will then ask her, "Might I inquire where I could find your master?"
Doesn't meet your eyes. She'll continue looking down at the floor, and second servant will enter the hallway, and this is a man around his 18.
Mm.
Please, sir, if you would follow me, I'll bring you to Dolores.
He smiles and nods. Thank you, young man," and he will follow him.
And the servant will bring you to a big room. Jack Randall is waiting for you, sitting with a table next to it with another chair. And when you will kind of look bored, but he will stand and nod.
And Archibald will smile and come towards him and extend his hand. "Mr. Randall," he says, "thank you for the invitation. I've looked forward to this night."
Jack Randall will grasp the hand of Archibald and shake it. "Thank you for coming." And then he'll look over to the servant and say, "That's all. Please let the servant girls bring something for us to eat and drink." And then he will gesture towards the two chairs and the table, and wait for Archibald to move towards it.
He will. I assume they'll both have a seat and wait for the servants to come back.
Mm-hmm. The servants come back with actual human food, and a glass with blood for me, and or no, 2 glasses of blood. Like, let's just do it that way. And Jack Randall will gesture towards the food, and he will say, "Please help yourself."
Archibald will smile and thank him, and he will reach for one of the glasses of blood. He will look at the food and says, I do thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Randall, but I must admit that it has been some years since I have been able to. By the way, the servants have left again by now, haven't they?
Oh yeah. They're
Good.
outdoors.
He Good. Yeah. He says I must admit that it has been unfortunately has unfortunately been some years since I've been able to enjoy the pleasures of normal food and drink. But that should not stop you. He quickly adds and takes a sip of the blood.
And just nod his head, just trying to be polite. And you can see him kind of shove the plate of food aside, and he will take up a glass as well and start to sip it.
He nods, and I do appreciate it. He said, it's just for my own part. It would not. I have tried a couple of times to eat food in the years since my embrace, and the results are not something that one speaks of in polite company. So I do thank you, but I would rather pass. But go on, sorry.
No, Jack Randall will just laugh at this, and will kind of make a salute motion with his glass.
He will
being with you.
Archibald returns the gesture and takes a sip. This is quite a city we find ourselves in, sir.
I must agree with you, Randall answers. I can't remember any time that the court has lacked so much of moral.
Oh, indeed. I must admit, I had not. The concept of a Bruja prince is somewhat. What shall we call it? New and untested.
That it sure is.
But
and
what is you know, but the Bruja have a loyal part of the Camarilla for centuries. That is not my chief concern. My chief concern is the fact that apparently this particular prince has seen fit to include the Ravenous, and that is something that does concern me.
And when you say Ravenous, you can see Randall kind of make a sour face. I agree. I would have hoped that our prince would have higher morals than he appears to have.
He might have some reasons that that we do not see. So, and one thing we do know is that he is more dangerous than he would appear at first glance, because otherwise he would not have been able to secure praxis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, to business, Mr. Fortescue.
Yes. I really have no idea what it's. He seemed to have an interest for Mrs. Browen.
Oh yes, the gangrel girl.
Yes.
Well, I mean, one can never really foresee the workings of the mind of the Toreador. He grunts.
No, you can't. And Jenna will kind of chuckle. But how are we going to obtain information or Primogen asked of us?
I've given that matter some thought myself, he says, and to be quite frank, sir, I haven't yet to come up with a satisfactory answer. One does not simply walk into Mordor. No, I'm sorry. One does not simply. I couldn't help myself. Sorry, viewers. One does not simply approach a Primogen and say, "Might I inquire?" Even one from the Toreador one. Maybe the better. Maybe an option could be to have Miss Brennan follow or something, because that would, if she regularly meets with Mr. Fortescue, then that would at least uncover this, and then we can take it from there. The danger is that, as far as I have been made to understand, the Gangrel are not entirely without talent in finding out finding out when they're being shadowed and when they're not.
Hmm. I was thinking more along the lines of befriending the Christian Fortescue, but for us to combine these two plans to not just Christian, but Brownwin as well.
He nods. That could work.
And what? And if the two of them just play around each other, they won't have any time to pay mind to us.
Leaving us free to seek to put order to this disordered place.
Yes. Now the question of who's going to befriend whom.
Indeed. What do we know of Mr. Fortescue?
He has a thing for unciviled redheads.
Do we know anything? Do we know anything about his interests and his priorities?
No, we don't. Maybe our Primogen has information for us about that, but apart from that, I can't really imagine. A Toreador holds many interests apart from things that he finds pretty and sparkly.
Yes. The reason I asked is that you and I, sir, are alike in many cases. We both enjoy the finer things in this existence. He says, and we are both of the clan of kings. We are both gentlemen, but we are also, I think, different in some other ways. So it might not be it might be prudent to consider somewhat carefully which one of us takes which plan.
I agree. I'm pretty sure within an hour of meeting Rowan and trying to befriend her, I already went to bash her skull in. So it might be best for me to stay clear of her.
You know, it's well that sort of that somewhat narrows our choices down. He smiles. Very well. I think that I can handle. I think that I can handle the rabble for some time.
And when you say rabble, the Jack will kind of make a snorting noise.
Well.
I think this plan might work. If we even get it so far as to introduce the two of them and everything goes well, Christian might even be thankful towards us, which can lead to a lot of possibilities.
Archibald smiles. Befriending a Primogen, even one that is not your own, is never a bad idea, he says. It can come back to help you in ways you hadn't thought possible.
And Jack will nod.
But again, we must not underestimate Mr. Fortescue. He is the Primogen of Clan Toreador, and that does not, like, the Toreador are, if Clan Ventru is the first pillar of the Camarilla, then Clan Toreador is the second. And they are not fools, even though they they tend towards short attention spans when faced with pretty things. We must not underestimate Mr. Fortescue.
I agree. I'll ask our Primogen if she has any information for me on Christian. Any information would be helpful, even if it's just something as trivial as his interests.
Like knowing the man's interest is always a good idea to. It's also always a good step to get to know the man. Just be sure, he says, to not call him Christian, even like when in conversation with others, because it has been my experience that which we make a habit of is something we also do when it is not appropriate.
And Jack Randall will look a bit offended, but he'll say, "Yes, I will keep it in mind."
He smiles. By the way, I'll just make a perception investigation to see if I catch that.
I'm pretty sure it's not. Is it investigation? Isn't it just empathy?
Oh yeah, I meant did I? If I said
Oh,
investigation, that's bullshit. I meant empathy.
sure, look your
Yeah.
way around, will you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I get it. He spots with 3 successes. Wouldn't you say that he notices the
Oh yeah,
look on? Yeah.
you can see the wrinkling of my nose and the tight
Oh.
corners of my mouth.
And with that, he says, "I did not mean to offend, sir. It's just that I have observed. I have observed this. I have observed before in my existence that. Well, let me tell you a story from when I was a neonate. This was not me because I was raised properly, but another fledgling. I think it was. Was it a Bruja who, because he had been allowed to refer to the Bruja Primogen in casual conversation by his first name, managed to call the Bruja Primogen by his first name in open court. He did not mean to, of course, but since the practice had been ingrained in him via habit, it just slipped his mouth. I do not think that you are a Primogen, sir. That I do not mean to offend you. The only reason I didn't neonate. I meant to say neonate. OC. I do not think that you are a neonate, sir. Don't presume that I mean to offend you. I would never do that. It's just ever since that incident, it has been instilled in me that what one makes a habit of, one sometimes lets slip.
And Jack will nod, not commenting on uh, all that Archibald just said.
Well,
And um, he will just change subjects. How do you plan to get close to Mrs. Brownwin?
an intelligent question. That is an interesting question. Because it would seem suspicious if I just approached her and tried to strike up conversation. He says our clan has a reputation, deserved or not, for ulterior motives, and I will need to give that some thought.
Please do. We don't want to raise any suspicion.
Of course not. Maybe maybe some philanthropy under the guise of wanting to increase my reach into the lower stratus of the life in Edinburgh. Maybe that could work. I will need to give that some thought.
Mm-hmm. And Jack will just nod. I think it's best for us to reschedule another meeting, within a week to see what we have found, even if it's just insignificant things.
He nods. I agree, and this time I politely insist that we switch venues so that you may enjoy my hospitality as well.
And Jack will incline his head. That's most graceful of you, or great.
He smiles and nods and takes a final sip of his glass of blood. Well then, we both have our have work to do, he says, and I at best get to the point, get to the business of planning it.
And Jack will nod.
And Archibald will. Oh, see, I don't know the cost. I don't know the custom. Is it customary for the host to stand and the guest to follow, or the other way around?
Um, well, let's say Jack Reynolds doesn't really care. In his mind,
Okay,
it's his house, so he does whatever the fuck he wants. He
fair enough.
relies on his servants to be polite and escort you out.
Fair
But
enough. Good. Well, Archibald, well, he will when he stands, Archibald will stand as well and extend his hand. Thank you for this pleasant evening, sir. It has been most enjoyable.
the pleasure was all mine, of course. And
And
he will move towards the door.
and he will Archibald will take his hat and his coat again from the servant girl, smile and thank her, and he will once again thank his host before he walks out into the night towards his coach, his horse driver wagon thing.
And once Archibald has left Jack Randall's mansion, he will turn towards the maid and tell her, "Let my bed make ready and send up the boy." And then he will walk off towards his private chamber. And this is where we'll end the scene. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Until next time.
Praise the tower.